So Futurama's latest 10 episodes just dropped on Hulu, and I was actually lucky enough to get to talk to the creator, producers, and cast of the show about this newest season, which is kind of a long-time dream of mine. I spoke to David X Cohen, Claudia Katz, and two different groups of the cast, including Billy West, Lauren Tom, Phil Lamarr, John Dimaggio, Maurice, Lamarche, and David Herman. It was like a really great group. The interviews with David and Claudia were a little bit more straightforward since those were solo. The other ones were groups of the cast, which maybe were a little more chaotic, but they were a lot of fun. And everyone had a lot to say about the newest season and about the show in general. I have actually been really busy the last couple of months covering other shows and making other videos, so unfortunately, I won't have full Futurama coverage on the main channel until at least next week, but there are a few episodes I really want to talk about. So before I get into these interviews and we look at the cast and crew and what they have to say about the new season, I want to give you my general thoughts about these 10 episodes. Overall, I thought it was pretty solid. There were a few really great ones in this bunch, and there was nothing that really stood out as particularly bad to me, outside of maybe one episode that fell a little bit too far back into the topical tendencies that a lot of fans don't love. I feel like the floor has raised a little bit in terms of just like the fundamentals and the quality of the season, but the ceiling didn't seem to raise particularly much higher outside of maybe a few episodes that I did quite like. Overall, it's just, again, felt like a solid batch of episodes. But there are three in particular that I thought were just like really special, and all for different reasons. The first is called The Numberland Gap, which feels like one of those classic Futurama mathematics and science episodes that's explaining all of these cool mathematic and scientific principles through amazing sci-fi storytelling and just visualization. I think that episode was really cool. I actually talked to David X Cohen about this one specifically, so you get to hear what he had to say about it. That one was really fun. I also loved the episode Crab Splatter, which focused on Leela and Zoidberg, which is a pairing that I don't think they've ever done. And I was actually shocked at how effective this one was emotionally, and also in terms of its sort of mystery storytelling here. It had like a really satisfying conclusion that was rooted in something they had set up early in the episode. I found myself at the end of the episode just kind of being astounded at how affecting it was on pretty much every level. And then the season finale this year is called The White Hole, and this is just a top tier classic Futurama sci-fi story. I adored this episode. I thought it was so cool, so special. It felt akin to something like All the Way Down, where they're taking a scientific idea and a sci-fi idea and really running with it in a Futurama-ish way. Truly one of the best of the season for sure. Maybe one of the best of the entire Hulu run. It actually might be my second favorite next to All the Way Down. Now, I've got a lot more in-depth thoughts about it, but I want to throw to these interviews here. First, let's go to David X Cohen. I specifically initially asked him about the Numberland Gap and what the inspiration for it was, and he had a ton to say. It was actually really interesting. It had some influence from Matt Groening and watching an old Disney special. You guys always manage to get some really great math and science-y stories in here that mesh with the world and science fiction well. Can you tell me about the inspiration for the Numberland Gap, that episode this year?
Yes, I can. I'm very glad you asked that question because it's one of the few that I have a pretty good answer for.
Great.
It's very unusual for me to have a good answer ready to go. That is straight from, the inspiration is straight from Matt Groening himself.
Wow.
Now that we are a Disney property, Futurama on Hulu, a Disney corporation, Matt had been watching this old Disney cartoon called Donald in Mathmagic Land. Let me be careful here, where Donald Duck is wandering through this world of numbers, and he's like, "This, I haven't seen it in a while, but it's great." And we watched, and maybe we can do something like that. And we all watched it, and it's like, it's kind of interesting, but there's there's almost no math in it, and B, there's not that much animation in it because it keeps cutting. They'll say like, Donald, math is very important to music. And it's really, yes, let's watch the London Symphony Orchestra for the next 20 minutes. So that's kind of the tone of it. So then Matt said, well, maybe not that, but can we do a version with real math in it? He just kind of challenged us. And we do have a few math people on the staff. I'm in the middle somewhere, but I got some math background. So that episode, our crew goes into a land of numbers, and it's pretty spectacular. A lot of great 3D graphics. I'll credit Rough Draft Studios and our 3D director, Scott Fanzo, and some actual math. Now, we always try to put it in a way that it's part of the dramatic story, and you don't have to understand anything, but I'm kind of interested to see the reaction, because I think, it may become like a classroom usable in the classroom if you look at what's going on in the background, not the bathroom, the background. And again, be clear. So that's like a huge experimental episode, I would say.
So it was cool to see him sort of light up when we talked about the Numberland Gap. He seemed really interested in how people are going to respond to that episode. I'm really interested to see how people will respond. I think that was a really cool one. Next, I talked to Claudia Katz, and she kind of just listed off some of the ones that she really loved this season, and I think she had a lot of good things to say. What are your favorites in this run?
I guess in order, I do actually, well, I like the first episode because it's funny. The Numberland Gap episode, which is, I would say our nerdiest math episode to date. And that really is saying something with our, math history or math central focused history. Just from a production value, and I think it's the most 3D we've ever done in an episode. And I just think it's just a really fun, smart, interesting looking episode, but still that has like a lot of heart and is funny, which to me is sort of to me, that's our hallmark. That's, when we're at our best, it's like smart, funny with heart. And that's sort of, to me, our kind of secret recipe. I do like Scared Screenless just because I have 2 children and it's funny. and there's plenty of adults who have that screen addiction. I like Wicked Human. I like the debate between religion and science, where it turns out no one's correct. Neither is correct. And I'm a huge fan of The White Hole. Like, I think which is our season finale, which I think is, I feel like our finales in general are pretty strong and end up being, my kind of go up on my favorites list, but I think this is a particularly great one. And it's I think I'm partial to it too, because I just read this blurb about white holes, and I called David and I said, do you know there's something called white holes? And he's like, what? And so I sent him this, I think it was like a Science Times article, which is, by the way, probably the limit of my scientific expertise.
Sure.
So I was like, it seems pretty fascinating. So I sort of handed it over to him, and then which is the best casting possible. And so sort of they took it from there. And it's, to me, it's just a super fun, very sci-fi, but great, feels like a very great classic and rewarding Futurama episode. So it might be my favorite of the season. It's hard. It's like picking children, but that one I think is pretty great.
After Claudia Katz, I got to talk to the cast, and all of the cast had their own favorites as well. It seems like everyone kind of had their own favorites, but these were really fun conversations to have, just them kind of talking through the season. And, it kind of just felt like I was hanging out with them, which was pretty cool. Out of these 10 episodes this year, do each of you have a favorite of this run of episodes that you liked particularly?
I'll start. I loved episode 6, Wicked Human, where they all float up into heaven, just because I just love those dreams that I have all the time. I don't know if you guys have them, of being able to levitate. And often I'm teaching people how to do it.
In your dreams?
In my dreams.
Really?
Yeah.
I fly sometimes in my dreams, but it always requires the use of something like a throw pillow. That's the thing that I can hang on to that makes me leave the ground. I don't know why.
A smaller magic carpet, you use a throw pillow.
Right.
Yeah, or a little couch pillow, and I'll go, why didn't I think of this before? This was so easy. All I got to do is use this. In the dream, you're like incredulous. So,
do any of you have a favorite of these last 10 that are just about to come out?
My favorite is when the crew journeys into a mysterious world inhabited by numbers.
He's been doing this the whole time. Yeah, he's got it. It's true.
It is. It's truly my favorite.
Wait, which one is the one I like? I like the one. Which one's the one where Bender gets taller?
Oh, Destroy Tall Monsters is the first
Bender
one.
undergoes a risky treatment to make himself gigantic.
I know it's kind of a gimme. It's the first episode, but it's really funny. So that's the one I like. And I'm being a jerk because I'm saying,
It's got, and you know what? That episode has Victor Wembanyama.
That's right. That's
right.
One of the new young stars of the NBA, also a Frenchman.
Big deal.
Yeah, I particularly love an episode where Bender gets really insecure about something. Those are always really fun.
It is a good one. So you're gonna love it. You're gonna love the whole whatever. You're gonna love the whole season.
So there you have it. I had a ton of fun talking to the cast and crew about the new episodes of Futurama. I will say I got actually a lot more cool information about the future of Futurama out of them as well. I'm actually going to put that in another video. It felt good to maybe separate the current season stuff from the speculative future of Futurama. So that's going to be another video that probably drops the same day as this one. There's going to be 2 interviews that are just dividing out those things, current season and future of Futurama. And there's some really good stuff in there. So if you haven't seen it and it's up, take a look. If it's not up yet, stay tuned. And then also I'm going to post the full uncut interviews from each section on my Patreon. So those will be mostly uncut, just like limited splicing and editing in there. And there's just a little bit more information that didn't make it into these videos, but mostly just kind of us shooting the shit and conversating. If you want to see some of the other stuff they had to say, there's definitely some really interesting stuff in there. We had some really nice moments. And that's what I got. So thank you so much. Definitely stay tuned for the interviews about the future of Futurama. There are some like really good nuggets of speculative future stuff in there that I think are going to interest a lot of people, so that'll be fun. All right, peace.
I stay mellow watching Johnny Two Cellos. He talks cartoons, he's a really cool fellow. He keeps you posted on adult cartoons. If that's what you're into, then grab a spoon and a very big bowl of your favorite cereal. Feels like Saturday morning cartoon material. Johnny Two Cellos, watch him on YouTube. Now enjoy this groove and bust a move.